a lot of procedures are covered under the NHIS. But, something like organ transplant, it is also a form of surgery, but the NHIS does not take care of that. However, if it's an emergency situation, no matter how it is, the NHIS covers. So if you talk about surgery, surgery is too broad, and I just give you an example of cesarean section, which is covered. So many forms of surgery covered, but some like the organ transplant, beautification surgeries, etc., are not covered.
Dialysis,
kidney dialysis are not covered. But if it's an emergency situation, which is very life-threatening, that can be done, and there are reasons for all these things. And
how do you define emergency situations?
Well, emergency is something which is life-threatening. For example, you get an accident and you must be taken care of instantly. There is no time to do anything. That is an emergency, and that will be taken care of.
Doc, there are some questions still coming about measures being put in place to check the ongoing losses. Corruption in the system is the way Emmanuel Sapong puts it. And Yaya Sika Ibrahim wants to know the reason why apparently some hospitals don't pay as much time to NHIS patients as it comes to others when it comes to treatment.
Hey, let me take the second one first, because NHIS has become so popular with particularly the poor that they flock to the hospitals or healthcare, and that's a positive thing. One thing that health insurance has done is to improve the health-seeking behavior of many people, so that where in the past they would self-medicate or would wait for a long time before accessing care, that has changed. Now, because health insurance is there, as soon as they feel ill, they go. And because of that, it avoids or averts a situation where the condition deteriorates to the point where it becomes more expensive to treat, and in some cases can kill people. So we have lots of people going to healthcare facilities. Go to any healthcare facility now, and you see women and children and many people queuing for treatment. And because of that, the administrative processes make it such that people who have national health insurance cards feel that they are discriminated against. They have to join long queues, and people who pay are fast-tracked through the system and have better treatment. That is partly perception and partly true, because cash-paying people can just queue just for the sake of the fact that people are being processed for their cards and their records and things like that. So it's an issue that we keep hearing about, and which we are trying to find ways of resolving. And then the other one was about fraud and corruption, and
before you come in with the corruption issue, very good point you raised about the numbers trooping to the hospitals because they are NHIS cardholders. What it appears is that the NHIS has become a victim of its own success. You go to the hospitals, a lot of people now come to the hospital with the NHIS card, and indeed the hospitals or the health facilities themselves have said that between 80 to 85% of their internally generated funds now come from the National Health Insurance Scheme, no more, or maybe just 15 to 20% coming from cash and carry. So what happens is that when people go to the hospitals and they are made to wait for a while, they think it's because they are with a card. Indeed, partly true, partly false. If very few people are queuing for cash and carry or to pay and get taken care of, that queue is certainly shorter, because there are more people in the queue for the NHIS or with NHIS cards. And it's a claims management thing. Your details have to be taken so that when the claims are submitted to the National Health Insurance Scheme or authority, we will know that the claims are genuine. So your details have to be taken. Sometimes your card will have to be photocopied, the form has to be filled, and all these things take time. So what we are doing is that we're trying to appeal to the service providers and even assist them in various ways to quicken this process. Maybe if there are 2 officers there taking the details and doing all that, maybe we can make it 3, so we quicken the process. So it's not, and people make it sound so derogatory that I was made to stand aside because I was holding an NHIS card. We want to tell the public that is not it, and I'm not sure by training any health professional would discriminate on grounds that you don't have money, I don't have money. So it is purely quite administrative. With the hospital, they have to ensure that your details are taken. If your card is expired, they have to know, because if they take care of you and your card is expired, they will not be reimbursed. So they must make sure that all these checks are done to ensure that they are doing what is right.
Okay, in fairness to you, you did mention earlier on that you've instituted audit systems to check foreign corruption. But in complement to that question, Alan Cash is asking how many people or institutions have actually been prosecuted or handed over to the law enforcement agencies for fraud and corruption.
Well, there are a lot of people, I mean, but what people don't normally hear is, I mean, a lot of these cases are in the courts. You know, the NHIA can't just say that you are guilty, so this is what happens to you. I mean, it's a law. We are in a country where we have laws and we follow laws. If we realize that something goes wrong, we hand you to the law enforcement agencies. We hand you. I mean, there are a number of cases in courts. NHIA lawyers go to testify and do a lot of things. Some of these people are told to refund their money. Some of these people are convicted. You know, so many of these things happen. But when the thing happens, you know, the first one is headline grabbing. And normally we fail to follow the process to see how the event ends or how that particular situation ends. But I can tell you that the NHI is not just sleeping, as it were. We are trying to ensure that a lot of these loopholes which are in the system, which are not necessarily our own creation, you know, are being taken care of. The reason why we've instituted the clinical audit system. And let me tell you this, you know, sometimes people go to hospitals. I mean, you went to the hospital about 6 months ago. Claims are submitted for this week or for this month, and your details are duplicated in this system. They have your details 6 months ago, so they just try and then duplicate that. You know, sometimes it's difficult for you to see the reason why we are introducing the biometric system. He said earlier that, you know, when you go and you get authenticated, a special code or transaction code, you know, is generated, and that code, you know, is a function of the time, the location, the date, you know, sometimes the venue, you know, which makes it difficult for it to be duplicated elsewhere. So when you bring it to our end, that code is also reflected at our back end. So the system has a way of checking it. It checks it, and it's able to tell that indeed you were at this facility at this time, and so this is genuine. This was what was done to you.
Okay, talking about checks and efficiencies, there are lots of posts in that regard. Anne Boachiwa Anoche is asking about what it takes to review price lists, especially when it comes to medicines, and she also mentions substandard or fake medicines. Azugboa Bright says, well, what about IT? Why don't we do everything online to help to speed up the work? But I think the most poignant post, Doc, is from a viewer called Colby Best, and he says that every week he has to spend over 50 Ghana cedis on his wife's antenatal visits to the hospitals. She is charged for things like lab tests, scans, and fees of 5 cedis before she is seen to checked. And prescriptions such as ferroglobin and others, maternal mothers are asked to buy them outside because they are not covered under the NHIS. What would you say to people such as Colby Best?
Well, this could be a case of co-payments, which we mentioned earlier on, because free maternal care is meant to be free for all pregnant women. Antenatal, postnatal, deliveries, cesarean sections, all of them are covered. So where someone is being made to pay for any aspect of this, it is illegal co-payments, which are not supposed to be done. And in many cases, when that is, he just mentioned our call center. We encourage people to contact our call center to report such incidents, for us to follow up. And in some cases we have retrieved the monies paid, and sometimes hospital staff can be ignorant about some of the things that they are not meant to do, they are not supposed to do, and they do them, and it may be a lack of education, and in some cases maybe not necessarily ignorance, but a willful desire to maybe take money off people, which we are trying to discourage. So I will encourage whoever that is to contact us. Call our call center. 054-444-6447 is the number to call. Make your complaint. A dedicated team will follow it up, and they will get back to the person with whatever it is after they've investigated.
Just hold on, Doc. Did I get this right? 054-444-6447.
That's right.
6447. Mr. Adonu, SMS, voice, IT, what do you think can best streamline service delivery and reduce processing times, reduce cost, reduce fraud, reduce corruption? Voice calls, okay, very good. What role does IT and data play in your interactions with the health service deliverers, like the hospitals and the clinics, and the beneficiaries, especially those that may have complaints, such as Mr. Colby, who posted something really interesting on our page?
Well, the NHIA has a very extensive, IT system across the country. What we do is, the call center, as you rightly mentioned, and we ensure that we get a lot of our issues channeled through that. There are so many other platforms. For example, we are working on social media to ensure that we have a lot of these complaints also coming through the social media. We have a dedicated team of client relation officers. We have a dedicated team at all district offices, which go around to ensure that our people are given, the treatment they deserve, amongst others. So, we are really on the ground trying to ensure that, our clients are taken care of in the manner which is acceptable and satisfactory. But indeed, we have over 8 million people, and we don't have 8 million staff across the country. We can't have 8 million staff across the country. That is why we set up the call center, which is now very pivotal and very key to our operations. When people have issues, they have to help us to be able to help them too. They have to call us and tell us that this is what they experienced, this is what happened, and then we'll follow it up and ensure that that thing doesn't happen again. There are various things we do to service providers. There are various sanctions we mete out to them, and we do this to ensure that in the end our customers have quality of service. And sometimes the issue of quality, somebody says he goes to the hospital, he was giving only these drugs, and somebody else came and paid and the person was giving this drug. Some of these things are not entirely true, because the person giving you the medicine is a trained professional. And for example, if you have malaria, the two forms of malaria could be different. So the drug which will take care of mine may not be necessarily the same drug to take care of yours. So if the two of us are diagnosed of malaria, it doesn't mean we should have the same kind of drug. Some may be more severe than the other. So if I'm giving more drugs and incidentally happened that I was a cash and carry person or customer, it doesn't mean that the NHIA drugs are inferior. No, we don't have our own drugs. There is a medicines list we follow, and the medicines list are not medicines that we manufacture ourselves to say that these are NHIA's drugs, so these drugs are of lower quality. And indeed, I'm not sure any health professional will want to give you substandard treatment because you are an NHIA subscriber. It shouldn't happen that way, and it doesn't happen that way. And again, one difficulty that we have faced or challenge we will keep experiencing is that people go to the hospitals and things which are not even NHIS related are put on. They find a way of putting it on the NHIS. For example, if you go to the hospital and the hospital is congested, NHIS or NHIA has nothing to do with that. But because the people are NHIA people, they go there and nurse talks to them or a doctor doesn't talk to them well, they feel it's because they are NHIA people. These are bigger, health sector issues which must be dealt with at that level. NHIA, what we do is that we grant you the financial access, to healthcare. So once you take your card to the hospital, your card is valid, you are told you'll be taken care of. Pretty much our job is done. But what we do is that we go beyond that to ensure that we collaborate with the key, service delivery bodies, the Ghana Health Service, the Society of Private Health Providers, the SHAG, which is the Christian Health Association of Ghana. These are key bodies which have institutions they supervise. What we do is that we are into so much collaboration with them to ensure that when our people go to the hospitals, they are taken care of. We don't do that for nothing, because if about 80% of all the funds they generate at their end, come from the NHIS, then I think we also have, a right and a duty to pronounce on certain quality issues. And we are not just sitting down doing nothing about it. For that reason, a whole directorate, called the Quality Assurance Directorate, has been set up to ensure that these quality issues are, addressed. And we are very competent people, a lot of them clinicians, very competent people with, on various areas and fields are in the system to ensure that our clients, our subscribers, who are very pivotal to our cause, are taken care of well.
Absolutely. Okay, from what you told me, basically you believe that it's your duty and your right to make sure that whatever you pay for on our behalf, you make sure is good for us. And talking about what's good for us, time has run out, and I don't know if that's good for us, but I want you to just very briefly tell me, Doc, what can we look forward to in the future that's so good when it comes to health insurance in Ghana?
With all the initiatives that we are putting in place, and we are very prolific when it comes to initiatives, and we are never satisfied with what is being done. Much of the criticism that health insurance, like you said, health insurance takes, are criticisms that should go elsewhere. All the ills of the healthcare system, sometimes through misperception, are blamed on health insurance, and that's not the case. Health insurance is good. It improved the system, improved people's healthcare seeking behavior. We have accreditation teams that go to healthcare facilities to maintain standards, or in fact, before they are even accredited, certain standards ought to be in place, and post accreditation visits ensure that they are keeping to those standards. So it's lifted the quality of care. And when it even comes to, we haven't mentioned provider payment reforms, mechanisms, so many things going into health insurance. Maybe we need to slow down a bit, but that's good for us because it's revolutionizing our health delivery system. What we need is extra resources to maybe guarantee or ensure sustainability over the period that the sustainability cycle lasts.
Okay, last minute chip in there from somebody who thinks that you've got to have internal affairs when it comes to checking fraud. I've been talking to Dr. Nianan Ajeti, Deputy Director of Corporate Affairs of the National Health Insurance Authority, pardon me for that slip of tongue, and Selom, I don't know, is the Communications Manager. I've posted the URL, the link to the NHIS website on the internet. It's www.nhis.gov.gh, and it's got a section there called FAQ, frequently asked questions. If the answer to your question is not there, well then send me a quick post and I'll share the email address of my guest, Selom. I don't know, he is the Communications Manager of the National Health Insurance Authority, and if you want to call in, it's 054 444 6447, 054 444 6447, and that's the number to call if you have a complaint to lodge. Sunrise continues right after this break. I hope you keep watching. Stay with TV3.